Hello everybody. Thanks for having me today. Thanks for the other great speakers. Before I get on to the Tiverton Tree Team, I just wanted to say to the previous speaker, I think is your name Claire? I'm currently making a new documentary with George Monbiot about rivers. It's called Rivercide. It's actually not a documentary, it's like a live documentary. It's going to be happening next May, and we would love to do a 2-minute river clean if you haven't already got that, but we could publicize that nationwide via George's massive social reach. If that's something you'd be interested in, let's discuss and see if we could do that. That would be so cool. Because I'll tell you very briefly, our Riverside live documentary, it's called, is it's going to be happening next May. George Monbiot is writing and presenting it, and it's basically about river pollution. I'm sure you've all heard that almost every single river, lake and stream in the country is now polluted. So we want to highlight that and then also give people practical things they can do to take care of their own local rivers. And we're going to be running a citizen science thing as part of the programme, getting people to go out and check the pollution levels in their rivers. So a 2-minute river clean as part of that would be very excellent. If you're interested, give me a shout. But I'm not here to talk about Riverside. I am talking about Tiverton Tree Team, which is a local project. I'm a Londoner originally, but I moved to just outside Tiverton about 9 years ago. And a few of us were involved in the campaign to persuade Mid Devon District Council to declare climate emergency. This was last year, which they did do. And this is Mid Devon we're talking about. It's not Totnes. It's not Froome. But with we had about 150 of us at the
Franny, yeah. I'm just going to interrupt because I think people are struggling to hear a bit. It's a little bit quiet.
Okay.
So you might have to come even closer or turn your sound up.
Okay. How about that? Is that any better?
It's okay for me.
Is that any better, people listening? There's nothing else I can do anyway. All I can do is shout.
Okay, well, the recording will be quite clear as well, and hopefully people can lean in and hear. Okay, fantastic. I will shut up again.
Where the microphone on an iPhone is?
On the side, turning it up.
On the side. Okay, hang on. If I take the cover off, 1 second. Okay, is that any better? Is that clear? That was me yanking the cover off. Anyway, I can't do anything else, so I'll just talk. So about 100 of us went along to the council meeting at Mid Devon District Council when they were voting on whether to declare climate emergency. This was quite a while after many other councils had. And also there was a motion about whether to commit to going to net zero by 2050. Anyway, one of our Green councillors put forward an amendment saying, let's not do 2050, let's do 2030, which we all thought there was no chance. But by some unbelievable miracle, they did all vote unanimously to commit to net zero by 2030, as in 10 years, which was a fantastic triumph, considering how few of us were involved, although few of us started it, but then it got bigger and bigger. Anyway, after we were celebrating this fantastic win in the pub, we were discussing, that's great, but what can we actually get on with and start doing to start the process of going to net zero, and also to encourage other people to get involved. And we just came up with this idea of starting a tree team, Tiverton Tree Team, as we called it. It was a bit late in the day. This was last year in about October, and that's a bit late in the day in terms of the planting season for trees, which is November to February. So if you're wanting to get trees, you need to have ordered them by that point. But anyway, we decided to go for it. And we basically put out a shout on social media for anybody who had land where we could plant trees, anybody who could give us money for a crowdfunder to buy the trees. I'm back. Anybody who could money to buy the trees, and also volunteers. And we just put out a shout, and then boom, we basically discovered that the people of Tiverton really want to get involved in tree planting. And so we had about 6 or 8 or something planting sessions over. This is last winter. We planted 2 community orchards. We planted a mini orchard in an adventure playground. We planted a huge amount of trees in a burial site. We planted an avenue of trees in the entrance to Knight's Haze. We planted loads of on farms. and about 6,000 trees in all, which was fantastic because we were aiming for 1,000. And we weren't just chucking them in. We had proper forestry people in our team who, so they were very strict with us, and we were matting and mulching them to protect them. Each one had a protection, mainly recycled, not using new plastic. And so we're committed to looking after these trees as well. We're not just chucking them in and covering them in plastic and walking away. We also did a schools project where we went to schools and we planted trees in schools, but we also got the kids collecting tree seeds and taught them how to plant them, to germinate them, and then so that we've got the schools growing next year's tree team trees for us. So that was all happened in a giant rush last winter, and I would completely agree with Claire from before that that the happy hormones you get from actually tackling something, especially if you're someone like me, and I guess lots of people here who've been going on about climate change, working on it on various different ways, like making films or doing petitions or all these kind of cerebral ways of tackling climate change, to actually be out digging a hole in the mud, in the cold, with your children and your dog, is such a good feeling. And I really think that's why the tree team was such a success, because people were just so relieved to actually have something physical they could do to start tackling the problem. Because obviously we only planted 6,000 trees. That is not going to make that much difference in terms of carbon sequestered, but I think it's true. I think it's true to say that it's made a huge difference in Tiverton in terms of bringing together the people who care. We had between, depending on the weather, we had between about 20 was the minimum and 70 was the most people volunteering at any one of our events. And I would say that each one of those people went away feeling much more positive about climate change, also having made lots of new friends. And now through the tree team, we've managed to connect all the people, not all, but a lot of the people who care about this subject in Tiverton, which, as I say, was not traditionally the, well, it's not Totnes, that's a simple way of saying it. So that's mostly it. That's Tiverton Tree Team. And then this year, we were planning on, going bigger and better, because we had time to prepare, because there's a lot of organizations that give free trees to groups like this. So we had time to apply for them, but unfortunately, COVID has put a stop to that. And all we've been able to do so far this year is run we're doing something called the Tiverton, I forgot what it's called, the Tiverton Forest. The Tiverton, what the hell have we called it? I've forgotten. Anyway, it's getting people to go out, collect the seeds, the same as the beach cleaning people are doing, collect the seeds, plant them, and we've put videos and stuff up about how to do that. And then if people can plant them and grow them and look after them in pots, then we'll come and get them next year, post-COVID, hopefully, and then we can plant them out in Tiverton. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Franny. I'm very glad we managed to get the tech back on board. I can see that Kate Yo, is that of your, I'm not sure which group Kate's from, but that her trees have arrived just at the beginning of lockdown. They couldn't make it a community event, but they managed something, and lots of good vibes from the passers-by. She's from Sustainable Bishop. So fantastic. Lots of love for your work here, Franny, and your documentary. So do you want to just tell us a little more about Rivercide and how people can get involved on that?
Well, we've just yes, we've just done a crowdfunder this last week that's just finished, actually, and we did get the funding, so that's fantastic. And that means
you seem to be a bit of a pro at that, Franny.
Well, thanks. Yes, I mean, most people most filmmakers, go to broadcasters to get a commission. But we want to, especially with somebody of George Monbiot's status, but we want to remain completely independent and not be beholden to anybody, and to be able to say it as it is, basically, which is why we decided to crowdfund. Yes, so we're very, very at the early stages, really. But it's been interesting because we've only just, started circulating the idea as it were. And so many people have come forward already. People who are doing specialized filming underwater, people who are doing cleaning up things, people who are measuring things, people who are, you know, campaigning for their own local rivers, people who've got footage that they filmed of, you know, pollution events going on, you know, people dumping stuff in rivers and stuff that they filmed and haven't previously had a platform, a way of getting it out. So we're going to be collating all that stuff. But then it's going to be a live documentary. So it's basically, you know, Springwatch. It's like Springwatch Springwatch meets Newsnight, basically. So yeah, that's the idea. That'll be happening next May.
Fantastic. I think that sounds really exciting. Now we will move to a panel just in a second, but just whilst you're on, Franny, and clearly you have had a lot of success with crowdfunding. One of the questions people that is asking, and actually was in my list, was do you have any tips around what people should consider with crowdfunding and how to be successful? If that can even be answered quickly.
Well, I mean, the most important thing is that you have to find the people who are going to give you the money. They don't come out of the air. And so, you know, if like we went through Kickstarter, but which is just a platform which you can use, which is easier in a way. When I raised the money for Age of Stupid, crowdfunding hadn't been invented in an official sense, so we had to invent our own platform, which is much harder work. But now there's lots of easy platforms you can use, but then they do take quite a bit of the money. So anyway, you can weigh it up. But yes, you have to find the people who are going to invest in your project. Just by putting it up on Kickstarter, you know, you might get one or two, or I don't know, a very few investors. But basically, you've got to find them, and the way, you know, you've got to find them by building your networks and all the normal things. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Brilliant.
I have to say, I've done quite a lot of crowdfunding, and this is the hardest one. And I don't think it's surprising that crowdfunding in the time of a pandemic and the time of the, you know, despicable inequality that we're living through and unemployment and all the rest of it, obviously crowdfunding, you know, well, for us it was harder this time, so we weren't surprised. Yeah,
I'll say that's all the more impressive that you've managed to achieve it.
Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, so I think there's lots of what of guerrilla hedging? Do you have any thoughts on guerrilla hedging?
Yes.
Filling the gaps in hedges with seeds collected on a walk.
I think it's a brilliant idea to collect seeds as you walk and then chuck them in areas that you think could possibly work there. Yes, absolutely. I mean, even better is to take them home and plant them in pots and then get somebody to plant them out somewhere where they've got an even higher chance. But if you're of success, but if you can't do that, then chuck them in a hedge. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic.